Hi, welcome to Hey Parents, Let's Chat, where I'm trying to create a community where parents can go to, where we can share ideas, because I just firmly believe that the more we share, the more we learn, and the better parents we can become. So many of my messages and my videos are based on my experience, and I want other parents to have, as minimal stress as possible. And so, in trying to minimize the stress for parents, I want to share with people what I've learned, what I've experienced, what works and what doesn't work. I want to share with people my message is I really want people to know what I wish I had known back then, but I know now. And so, sharing my message, I'm hoping, is going to help as many parents as possible. But I also know that my ideas aren't always, going to work for everybody. And so the more we share, the more we learn, and the better parents we all can become. What you find, I might say, might be helpful, but perhaps once you're reading comments and talking to other parents about some of the topics that I bring up in my videos, you'll learn not maybe from me, but maybe from someone else who has other ideas or comments. Today's video, we're going to focus on lying. And there are two videos that I'm going to do so that we can separate the ages. I'm going to have one video that's going to be dedicated towards the younger kids, and then one video dedicated to the teenagers, because we're going to want to deal with teenagers way differently than we're going to deal with an 8-year-old. And so for this video, I'm going to focus specifically on the younger kids. And I'm going to talk a little bit about what happens developmentally. But then I'm really going to share with you a strategy that you probably don't hear very often, but it's one that worked for me, and it just is a successful strategy. And so I'll share with you that after we talk a little bit about what's happening with kids and their lying. Because one of the things I want parents to know is that just because your child is lying, that does not mean that they're like a bad kid, or that they're going, it's a bad reflection on you as a parent. You might be in a situation where socially you find your kid just flat out lies to someone, and you're right there to witness it, and you're like, you should know better. Like, I taught you better than to lie. Like, it's not about us as parents. Like, literally, it is a developmental stage that kids go through. It's much like when your baby is in their high seat and they start throwing things off of their trays, and like, we as parents get super frustrated, like, why are they making a mess all over the floor? Why are they throwing things? Oh my goodness, what's going on? Guys, it's a stage, much like lying. They go through these developmental stages, and then they learn, and then they become, hopefully, better, decent human beings. But what happens is, so when your kids are super young, like 2 and 3, they're still developing an understanding of imagination versus reality. And there might be times when they might say something that is them just using their imagination. Like, toddlers don't know how to lie. They don't have any motivation or reason to. But when they are making comments that might come across as imaginative, you really want to, as a parent, point out, oh, you're using your imagination. That's so interesting. Or that's not real. You must be using your imagination. So you're starting to have conversations about what's real and what's not. And then closer to 4 and 5, that's when they are better able to understand the difference between a lie versus truth. And so you want to be having conversations with your kids so that they start to understand the difference. And this is all like teachable moments. So when something comes up, you might be like, is that the truth, or is that a lie? And so you're just having conversations about it. And so it's teachable. And right around 5, 6, they should definitely know the difference between lie versus truth. And it's bad to lie. It's always good to tell the truth. And as they're developing, and as you're parenting from like 3 to 4 to 5 to 6, this is where you're building your culture as a family. You're role modeling. We don't lie. We always tell the truth. When you see opportunities come up, perhaps socially when you might see someone else that might have been lying. Use this as a conversational tool where you're like, oh, can you believe you said that? Like, I'm so proud of you for being honest and telling the truth. So there's lots of teachable moments. Now, there is going to get to a point where, they're going to be practicing, they're going to be trying things out, they're going to start lying, because that's just what all kids do. Again, like, this is normal. And so we can't just freak out as parents. This isn't a reflection on us. Doesn't mean that they're bad kids. They're just going through a phase. And so how we handle it becomes super important. And again, you want it to be teachable moments. And then if they're continuing, to lie, did you brush your teeth? Sure, Mom, I brushed my teeth, when you can still see like the orange Gatorade on their teeth, right? Then you want to address it. It's kind of like one of those things where you really want to nip it in the bud once it becomes a pattern that they're continuing to do, because you want them to know that you're taking it seriously. If they know the difference between right and wrong, they know the difference between lying and truth, but now they're continuing to do it over and over again, and it's starting to get really frustrating, right? Like, did you do your homework? Yes, Mom, I did my homework, when it's still in the backpack that hasn't even been opened since he got home from school. Or did you wash your hair? Sure, Mom, I washed my hair. When they come down from showering and you notice that she still has her hair dry, how could you have showered and washed your hair if your hair is still dry? So then they're setting a pattern, right, where they're now lying, and it needs to be addressed. And so there's multiple ways that you can handle it. I loved the whole, whenever I addressed one of my kids with lying, I always made sure that I knew I had evidence, and that I wasn't going to be falsely accusing them. And so I always like to make sure that I know what I'm talking about before I make an accusation. So if you ask, did you brush their teeth? You make sure that the Gatorade has been cleaned off of their teeth. You might go upstairs and check their toothbrush to make sure that it's wet or dry. Now, there are a couple things that you don't ever want to do when you're addressing lying with your kids. Number one, you don't ever want to share with them how you know. You're never going to be like, dude, your toothbrush is still dry. How is it that you could have brushed your teeth? Well, as soon as you start sharing the evidence, all that's teaching them is, ooh, next time I'm going to put the toothbrush underneath the water, make it wet, not brush my teeth, and then she'll never know. So you don't ever want to reveal all of your investigating strategies, because then they're going to try to outsmart you. And you don't even have to go there. All you have to do is just address it. And so another don't ever do, you don't want to reveal how you figured it out, number one. Number two, you don't ever want to say, I can tell by the look on your face that you're lying. Okay, so if you say that, then all you're doing is teaching your kid, okay, I better have a better game face next time. Next time, I have to practice making sure that my face isn't revealing a lie. And so we don't want to reinforce those negative things. You don't want them to become better at lying, right? And so all you have to do is say, dude, I know you're lying. So here are some options. You can be honest with me now, and your consequences will be this much, or you can continue lying, and then your consequences are going to be this much. So, do you want to deal with the small consequence and own up to what you're telling me and tell me the truth, or do you want to have worse consequences because you're going to continue to lie? And so that's always a really good strategy to use. And I often will give, the kids a second chance once I've caught them in their lie, where I might be like, hey, I need you to think about this because I know the truth. I know it. So you have a chance right now. I'm going to give you one chance to decide to tell me the truth, or I know you're lying and the consequences will be worse. And then give them that chance to actually own up to it. And so those are just some strategies. And there are plenty of other ways that you can process with your kids. It's super important that you're always processing with them, but they need to understand that they can take the easy road and be honest with you up front, or they can lie and make things worse for them. A really good message, life lesson right there. Taking the easy road is going to be better for you. Anyway, so if you have a kid that is continuing to lie and not getting it, you've done all of the processing, you've created a culture in your house where, lying is not okay and telling the truth is always better. You've been good role models because, there's no lying, even white lies. We're always truthful, blah, blah, blah. You've created this culture and they're still not getting it. Here is the strategy that I always fell back on. And it was actually quite successful. Spend the weekend lying to them. And they will learn real quick how it's not so fun. When they're lying, there's many reasons for why they're lying to begin with, right? So you kind of want to be thinking about what their motivation is. Well, some kids will lie just to get attention. Some kids are lying because they're afraid of the consequences. And so they will lie because they don't want to deal with getting in trouble for what they did. Okay? Most times, 9 out of 10 times, I'm going to tell you, it's probably because they've got better things to do and they just don't want to do what you asked. Did you do your homework? Yeah, sure, Mom, whatever, I did it. When they didn't. They'd rather be playing video games. Okay? So you ask, did you brush your teeth? And they say yes when they didn't. Well, it's because they've got other things on their mind. And doing what you tell them isn't a priority for them right now. And so it's really oftentimes just them trying to get out of something. That's it. Pretty simple. And so what they need to understand is it's, on a deeper level, it's more about trust. You have to be able to trust that what they're saying is true, okay? And so teach them. Spend the weekend lying to them. Because up until now, their lying is all about them. It's all about what they can get away with. It's all about their needs. But if you spend the weekend lying to them, they start to look outside of themselves and they start to realize that there are actual consequences to lying. And it affects people on a deeper level other than just their little kid trying to get away with something. And so spend the weekend and have fun with it. Like, actually be creative, like when they ask what's for dinner, you might say to them, you might think in your mind, what is their favorite meal? And you might just say, you know what, we're going to have macaroni and cheese with hot dogs mixed in. And then for dessert, we might have ice cream sundaes. If that's their favorite, tell them. And then when dinner comes, serve up chicken and broccoli, cauliflower with cheese. And they're going to be like, hey, I thought we were having my favorite, macaroni and cheese with hot dogs mixed in. And you're like, oh, no, we're not. I lied. And then serve dinner. Move on. Don't make a big deal about it. Just move on. The next day, you might be like, hey, we're going to go do some errands and we're going to stop at blank, blank, super fun place that they all love. Hops in the car, we go do some errands, and then head home. And then he or she might ask, well, I thought we were going to go to my favorite place that you said we were going to go to, blank, blank, blank. And you're going to be like, oh, no, not true. Then go home. That's it. Then maybe, Saturday night, hey, let's have movie night. We'll make some popcorn. You pick out the movie. And so then after dinner, you're making the popcorn. Sit in front of the TV, and you and your husband might decide, let's just watch the news. Put the news on, and your kid's going to be like, hey, what about the movie? Oh, no, we're going to watch the news tonight. How's your popcorn? Want some more? And just have fun with it. Spend the whole weekend lying to them. And by Sunday, they're going to pick up what you're putting down, and they're going to get it. And you just need to have a conversation with them at some point, and you'll be able to figure out like when that conversation is going to be good, because they might think it's funny, and then they might get super frustrated. Let them get frustrated. Like, Go with it, stick with it for a couple days. It needs to sink into them that their lying affects other people. And so here they're learning all of this lying is affecting me. I am disappointed. I'm getting frustrated. I didn't get the meal I wanted. I'm having a hard time trusting mom because she's telling me all of these things that are not true. And so all of a sudden, the kid starts to realize it's not just all about me. And at some point, after they've gone through all of this, they thought it was funny, they got super frustrated, and then, you can ask them, say, hey, how did it feel to have someone lie to you? Was it super frustrating? You know, or you might just have a conversation with them, and like, you know what? It's hard to trust someone, isn't it? Did you have a hard time trusting me? And have a conversation about it. And then all of a sudden, they will start to learn and realize that it's not in their best interest. Number one, because I could get in trouble and end up with consequences after I lie. Number two, it's damaging to the relationship, which is the more important message. And so hopefully the next time they go to lie, they might fall back on these experiences and think to themselves, ugh, don't want to put someone else through that. And so anyway, it always worked for me. I hope that this helps you. If you have any ideas that helped you with your children as they were going through this phase of lying, please share in the comments. Go to heyparentsletschat.com and you can add your comments there. I also will have a link at heyparentsletschat.com. If you click on this video, underneath the video, there'll be a link where it'll say click here for a resource. I found a great article. There's lots of stuff out there. Like if you Google, anything about kids and lying, you're going to find all kinds of information. This strategy I found to be real. I found it to be helpful. You're probably not going to hear many experts out there telling you this as a strategy to go lie to your kid. But there's a lot of information out there. But there was one article that I really liked, and it really boils it all down, and it keeps it really simple. And so I'll link that onto heyparentsletschat.com. And so hopefully you can share your ideas that others can learn from. And I look forward to our next chat. Thank you for joining us. If you found value in our video, please hit subscribe, hit like, share this with people. If you have a friend that's going through this with their kids, share this video, and hopefully it helps them. And I look forward to our next chat. Thank you for joining us.